doesn't quite fit us. Ecotourism doesn't quite fit us. And I've been thinking about the term community tourism. And there's actually a couple sources that have come out with this. And I've pulled out two quotes that I really think that you all here in Greenbelt specifically will be interested in. And it's really making sure that we leverage any tools we have for tourism and make sure that those projects and programs are also benefiting residents and neighbors. So that's something we're taking a really close look on as we develop a 5-year action plan of our own, and wanted to share that those are some things that we've been thinking about. In terms of other projects, you can go to the next slide. Broadly, we work in public history. We have a new trail that has 5 in-ground signs, and as well as a bilingual website related to civil rights history. We've also worked recently on women's suffrage history, and of course, the War of 1812, which just had great significance here in our area. Some of the other things we work on are trail connectivity. So we're working on an extension to the trolley trail to better connect south of Hyattsville all the way to DC. We're working on a small trail in Colmar Manor to better connect Dueling Creek with Anacostia Trail system. And then we've also partnered with our friends at Friends of the Greenbelt East Trail on working with their feasibility planning for the Greenbelt East Trail. We also work in public art, placemaking, and one of the things we're working on a bit more, my background happens to be in historic preservation, is to actually work on capital improvements. We've been really lucky to be able to partner on some grants that have created capital investment in art centers and other historic properties. And that's something that we know there's a great need, especially along some of our historic properties and historic commercial properties as well. The next slide, actually you can go 2 more if you don't mind, is all about what we are up to specifically in 2026, because it is the U.S. semi-quincentennial. And as I rest my voice, can I have Grace give an update?
Sure. So for the semi-quincentennial, we are doing genealogical workshops, and the second of which is this Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Entirely online. And then we have one more and an in-person bus tour to various spots that have a lot of genealogical resources for people. We are also doing, I believe, 2 bike rides and then an ongoing boat tour at Bladensburg Waterfront Park. And we are having a public block party in Bowie on May 30th. Yeah.
Thank you, Grace. I'm getting over a cold, so thank you. We've actually been meeting for well over a year and a half, a growing group of volunteers, historians, librarians, artists, and anybody who's truly interested in how Prince George's County can uniquely commemorate 250 years of just remarkable history with its own ups and downs. And we've taken great pride in having that be particularly inclusive and having it be grassroots in that way. So anybody's invited to those. You can go to www.pgc250.org. And that's just been a great way for us to get engaged in other people's programs and projects and sort of bring it all together. So please join us for that event. You'll also start to see at some of the Prince George's County properties, community centers, a passport program. So you'll be inspired to visit as many historic sites as you can. And then throughout the year, you then can submit your name and information and be entered to win a trip with travel to any National Trust of Historic Preservation site across the country. So a decent reason to pick one of these up when you see them. This one's mine. Don't take it, okay? Although I think I'm ineligible, so which is okay. So those are the things we're doing for the semi-quincentennial. I think I have one more slide, and then I'm happy to take 2 more, and then I'm happy to take some questions. So besides all this fun stuff we get to work on, like I mentioned, we are grant makers. So by being part of a heritage area, all municipalities and nonprofits within Prince George's County or that have projects or programs in Prince George's County are eligible for a specific pot of funding from the Maryland Heritage Areas Program. That grant is typically funded at just over $5 million each year. And annually, our job is to support potential grantees to apply and achieve these grants that are reviewed at the statewide level. In the past, the city of Greenbelt has received this funding to document the historic cemeteries that I know you all had prioritized learning more about and sharing with the public. And then also Old Greenbelt Theater, which I'll mention I was a board member of for many years and continue to enjoy visiting that place. So that grant period is actually open now. So the intent to apply is due tonight at midnight. So I'm not sure if you have a project, but you'd be welcome to submit this evening. And then also we have our Rocket grants, which are a small amount of money, $5,000 for big ideas that need a small amount of money. And here in Greenbelt, we've used that to support Bike to Work Day, or improvements to Greenbelt Online, the feasibility study for Friends of Greenbelt East Trail, and also programming at Greenbelt Recreation and Arts Program. My actual last slide, thank you, Grace, is, in addition to thanking you for allowing me to present in person, it's just making sure that, I continue to be visible and reintroduce our organization. You all have been, very active and supportive members since the very beginning in the late 90s. So one of the ways that we're hoping to continue the conversation in a meaningful way is to have a municipal advisory committee on our board of directors. It's a non-voting position, but it allows us to sort of identify either city council folks, city staff, or residents in a more formal way on our board of directors and have more regular meetings, just making sure that we have a good two-way street going. So I'm happy to follow up with more information about that, some information on the screen there. Otherwise, I will give my voice just another minute break, and again, thank you, and open to any questions you may have.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Let's see. Yeah, Councilmember McKinney.
I want to give your voice a break, but I do have a question. I was interested in just learning more about the programming that you're doing with the recreation department, because I was just thinking about this passport book you have that seems to could be a really cool activity that our youth and people that take part in the recreation program can get involved in. But I don't know what is the level of depth you go into programming with some of the organizations that you partner with.
Thank you very much for that question, council member. So in that instance, the way we are able to support programming as a two-person countywide nonprofit organization was to provide a grant to the city for the recreation arts program. I could not tell you off the top of my head specifically how that was used, but that is an annual opportunity to apply for we call them Rocket grants, to apply for those funds. It's an unfortunate sort of place to be, is that we would love to be a major partner on so many small events, and we've, even with our increased capacity with service corps members, we try to focus on either providing technical support or funding when we can to a project, and then sort of hopefully it flies out of the nest. So sometimes anniversary programs or special event programs is probably the best place to catch us, because that's where we have a little more flexibility in the services and funding that we can provide, instead of for ongoing support.
Let's see, other questions? Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
Well, that just makes me think that we should be looking at, because next year will be the 80 or 90, 90th anniversary of Greenbelt. So we might need to look into that to get some funding, maybe for some anniversary celebrations for Greenbelt next year.
That is a great, for people who aren't historians, who don't live in anniversary year, live in history all the time. An anniversary year is a great reminder to look into that and just check the funding dates. But we've supported other towns that are supporting anniversaries with videos or special celebrations or public events or anything like that. That's a great idea.
Okay, I got a couple of questions. So you mentioned capital improvements and historic preservation. So we've got a number of big projects, potential projects that we're sort of looking at. One has to do with the expansion of the Greenbelt Museum. I think you may have provided a grant for that at some point. But we continue to raise funds so that we can break ground and begin with those renovations. But also, there's some other elements. We got a hold of the Greenbelt Armory at the intersection of Greenbelt Road and Southway, and we're looking at the feasibility of some different projects there. So that capital funding you mentioned, is that for planning or is it for building? What can you tell us a little bit more? And the other thing is, we've got a very historic school here, Dora Kennedy French Immersion School, and that will be going out of commission at some point over the next few years. So we're also kind of looking down the road at what may happen with that. So tell me a little bit more about the capital grants.
Well, thank you for bringing those projects to my attention. The best way to receive funding, including pre-development for capital projects, is to go through the MHAA grant. So that would be the very specific heritage area grant funding that, being part of a heritage area, provides eligibility. There are, of course, and you all do many, many different revitalization projects, would be to potentially partner with us on grants related to from the Redevelopment Authority or from state DHCD or things like that. That's where we've sort of been able to find ways to partner as a nonprofit with a municipality to sort of do what we both do best, but to do it together towards sort of the means of a project. We are not in a position to fund projects ourselves. A revolving fund for historic properties is a long-term goal of mine. Here in Prince George's County, we actually have some really great county programs that are uniquely eligible for private property owners, which is unique really across most of the time, unless you're talking about historic tax credits or loans. Most of the time, the properties do need to be owned by municipalities or nonprofits. So, just knowing that you all have been longtime partners, just sort of sharing some things that we're looking to grow also now that we've been around for about 25 years, and thinking, just over that time that's a growth area for us. As it comes to either the armory or sort of re-envisioning a space, that's also perfect for a rocket grant, because those can bring in like a creative consultant, or could help with a community design charrette or survey or something like that. So I think somewhere in a brainstorm session for some of these properties, but doing that collaboratively to see what projects or programs that either our organization or you all could tap into together or separately, and then sort of dovetail those together.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. We would love to follow up with you on it. And you said the Heritage Area grant deadline's today?
It is at 11:59 tonight.
We're going to make that one.
It is a very short intent to apply. And I will, if for some reason something comes up, I'll follow up with you tomorrow. Let's see. If you don't get it in tonight, I'll follow up with you tomorrow and see what we could do.
But we do need to open up the lines of communication. I have to tell you, I actually served on that Heritage Area Commission at one time for a couple of years. And, it's kind of bittersweet, the transitions that we've gone through getting to this point. To the best of my knowledge, Greenbelt, Mount Rainier, Riverdale Park, we were all kind of involved at the very beginning. Very, very supportive, working together on the board. There was a transition, and we had the managing board, we were on the governing board. So, and I think I'm still on the board, right? Or no, I'm...
Right now, Mayor, you are part of the governing board, which, as part of our 2017 bylaws, from my reading of them, when I took the position from Aaron Markovich, who folks might know his name, he was a Greenbelt resident, was the director here for 10 years, doing very well in Connecticut. So we right now have a very unique board situation that I don't necessarily think is working efficiently for folks on any component of that board, to speak plainly. So it puts us in a position where we're sort of administering two boards, but not necessarily in a collaborative or efficient way. So our goal is to create a committee on a more traditional nonprofit board, instead of having two boards, one made up of municipal representatives and to sort of unite them and sort of have a closer shared mission and work together.
Makes sense. It'd be nice to have a liaison from that governing board on the formal board. That way,
Great
the
idea, yes.
voice would not be lost completely.
Mm.
But I appreciate the update. Uh, Mr. City Manager, did you have any questions? Because I know with our grant person and the work that we're doing, I mentioned those capital projects off the top of my head. The other thing, you talked about the 250 commemoration. And we haven't really kicked around too many ideas. I saw something about the idea of having a community potluck or something, but we haven't really done any work in that area. So maybe you can help us with some ideas around that.
Well, we're gonna put on a Fourth of July celebration. We're one of the best around, so we'll continue to that. We'll have a big fireworks show. We've keep adding on things to our Fourth of July celebration, and I think we'll add more now. You all started reading the Declaration of Independence, so I think people are looking forward to that and more engagement. So we'll plan on having a bigger Fourth of July celebration. As far as the other programming, we appreciate the partnership that we have with ATHA. We're currently working on cemetery project. Expect to have an application around the implementation of that project. But we're also excited to get the 2 other grants that we have with Maryland Historical Trust for the museum. So I was just adding up the numbers, looking up the numbers. We have secured 300,000 out of the 500,000 that is needed for the museum, of which 150 have come from the historic trust, but we need 200,000 more. Sure, it's what you hear all the time, right?
Like I said, that deadline is 11:59 tonight.
There's no time.
Appreciate the update is very important, and I want to somehow, if we can get a better flow of information going back and forth, because the calendars that come out, the email blast, you've got a huge list, and we want people to know about the events and activities that we have going on in Greenbelt. So somehow we got to close the loop with our public information director, James Cincy, back there. And actually, is there a deadline for when you need information for those calendars?
So our email newsletter, which everybody is welcome to sign up for. We're not a membership organization, and our emails and communications are free. You can sign up at the bottom of our website, anacostiatrails.org. And those are released on an intermittent basis. And so in some ways, that provides the most flexibility for us. But in some ways I can see, it's like, oh, okay, well, it does happen that we miss some events. So that's something that we can look into doing, is formalizing. But the best thing to do is to sign up for our newsletter, and then also make sure that we're signed up for your all's. And then I think having either you, Mayor Jordan, or an additional member of City Council or staff join us on that municipal advisory committee, I think would be a fantastic idea, especially since you all have so many projects that are allied with us, to keep that as a two-way street.
Please let us know when the gathering is going to happen. And just one last thing, I think I remember. So you were talking about moving to a different location. You've been in the Pyramid Arts Building. Are you still there?
You want to take that question?
Yes, we are still in the Pyramid Atlantic Art Center. I don't believe there's any plans to move, but we've scaled down, so we no longer have a public-facing visitor center.
Okay.
And the reason that we did that is, the visitor center was really beautiful. And I think, unfortunately, what happened is that we built the space with a capital plan and not really a implementation or an operating plan, and then sort of went back to the same 1.5 to 2-person staff. And we had the opportunity, because the Art Center, Pyramid Atlantic Art Center, is doing so well in Hyattsville. They said, we would be happy to reclaim this space, reduce your rent, and of course partner as much as we always do with them. And so our office is in Pyramid Atlantic on Gallatin Street in Hyattsville.
It's a great location. That was a really cool space, though. Did we have a piece like a canoe paddle or a shovel or something in there? Or, because you have these different pieces of not artifacts, but pieces related to the different ATHA members, sort of suspended from the ceiling on the walls.
So we had a half of a kayak and attached to the wall, and we had some other, which I would have been happy to offer as decoration. She was no longer seaworthy. So, but any artifact that we had that was historic that was on loan from College Park Aviation Museum or anywhere else was returned to where we had been borrowing it from. And then we also donated some of the more sort of quirky items that we had that were non-historic but very interesting to Community Forklift.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for the update.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for the partnership.
Well, Mr. Mayor was going to share that we had half of utility pole last week. Oh, okay.
Got to get some information about the historic Greenbelt utility pole into ATHA. It's called tourism. And you've heard about the historic Greenbelt utility pole.
I just saw this sticker on this water bottle, and I was going to ask you, is that a real thing?
Oh, it's real.
Oh, it's very real.
I'm not sure it's historic, but
I
it
don't
is
know if
world
it's-
famous.
There are two. There are two. There's the
I'm sitting back
original
down.
world famous utility pole, and then there's
You can
this
pull it up on Google Maps.
utility pole. This is the one, or is the original one?
We're even taking notes on this. We're very interested. Okay.
Been doing some research on the provenance of the poles, and we haven't, we're still digging into it. But it's people are coming from all around. Congressman Raskin came over. And,
No, it's only, of course it's true.
One's right across the street from the library, and then the other is at the corner of Northway and Hillside.
Well, may I invite us to a site visit when things melt? We would love to learn more about that, and that's a sort of interesting thing we're very curious about.
only in Greenbelt.
Obviously, there's a preference for one over the other at 4.3 stars on average, but yeah, they're listed and well visited.
Well, thank you for making my evening. That was truly wonderful. We'll have a follow-up meeting about that. And I also need a sticker, please. Okay.
Okay. Hey, let's go ahead and move on. We've got some really interesting things to talk about tonight. And in the packet, we had a variety of materials. And I think the next thing in the packet was actually a report on the, let me see, is it the Qualified Data Center Task Force presentation? I believe that was in the packet. Now, that wasn't really intended to be a discussion item, but it's more informational because these questions, the task force that's been working on that county-wide, they completed the report and they're continuing to work on potential sites. And there's a lot of information out there. So one of our legislative contractors, Jimmy Tarlow, actually sent that out to us. It was very helpful. And there's another document in the packet, which is the Department of Housing and Community Development, their 2030 housing production targets document. And I believe City Manager Somerone, you included that in the packet. It's very, very interesting stuff. It's projections looking at, the DMV as a whole and trying to figure out, based on the employment needs, the workforce needs going out into the future, actually in the state of Maryland, kind of breaking down what the expected needs are for housing and kind of looking at that county by county, looking at that over the next few years. So that was something that came out of the Department of Housing and Community Development, and Jacob Day is the secretary, the former mayor of Salisbury. So it's something that Governor Wes Moore has been looking at pretty closely. Now, for us in Greenbelt, it's a little different because we don't really have the planning and zoning authority. So, and there's not a whole lot of space for any kind of new development. I mean, I suppose if you looked at the city really closely under the right conditions, there might be some opportunities for redevelopment. And of course, there's a plan for Beltway Plaza. The Quantum Corporation has an approved plan to actually expand and to build some additional housing apartments in the rear of their parking lot. So my take is that's an information item also. Councilmember Fritz, you look like you want to say something.
Well, I was going to say that I do think that um, while we are relatively, I mean, we're an inside and outside the Beltway community, so we kind of straddle the Beltway. But I do think that there is a lot of opportunities for infill development and redevelopment, especially. And I think that that's longer term. Once there's a little more certainty in what's going to happen with the metro site, I think that there will probably be a push for greater development pressures around the metro. And I do think that that's something we want to be aware of. And I do think that if we look at how much of our built environment is parking in shopping centers, that seems to go pretty. Right now, it's just storing a lot of snow. There's large snow drifts and large mountains that maybe we could build on top of the snow drifts and get some density there. But in all seriousness, I do think that there is room for more density, even if it not necessarily looks like College Park, but even if more of the city looked like old Greenbelt and had that level of density, I do think there is room for more housing within the city limits. And I do think that making sure that it's kind of connected via transit and helps boost ridership of transit, I think should be priorities of the city.
Yeah, I appreciate those comments. I think you're just spot on with the potential for infill development down the road. So it's hard to talk about housing and density without talking about affordability. And looking at this report and hearing the conversations region-wide in Northern Virginia and D.C. and Charles County and Frederick County, there was a lot of projected growth just with federal employment and whatnot, and the pressure from that sort of was an imperative for kind of creating some new opportunities for housing. So it's just interesting times we're living through right now. But when you talk about density and new housing, it's hard to separate that from affordability. Without the access, if the jobs aren't close to the housing, then it's just kind of complicated. Not per tem.
Yeah, I just would like to make a process suggestion because I think this is a conversation that could be very wide-ranging and take a lot of time if we let it. We have, I think, at least my perception of our goal for this meeting tonight was to go through and sort of get a list of our legislative priorities and where we want to take a stand on them so that then we can put it on the agenda for Monday to actually vote whether we want to support or oppose or take no action. And so rather than getting into all of the reports and things that were in the packet, I think what may be more important is the bill tracking document that was, I think, actually the first thing that was in the packet, at least the virtual version of the packet, and go through and make suggestions about which ones we want to make sure, which bills and legislation we want to make sure we have on our list to vote on Monday so that we can have that on the record so that then, as we talked about a little bit last week, whether we want to do a letter or a testimony, but I think we need to make a decision as council about which things we want to pay attention to. And so I'd like us to stay a little bit focused on that. And I don't know if Councilmember Pompey was sort of being our lead for this legislative, working with our consultants. I know there are some recommendations in that document. I don't know, were those the recommendations from MML that's in that spreadsheet, or where did those, I don't know where those come from, but I guess I would like to have us stay focused on talking about a piece of legislation briefly, deciding whether we want to have it on a list to vote on Monday, and then move on to the next one, because otherwise we're never going to get through this.
Right. Thank you so much. And that's exactly why I just framed those two documents to sort of take them off the table so we can focus on the tracking list. And so we have been working with the contractor. I've been working with Councilmember Pompey to move this ahead. So at this time, I'd like to actually, if you'd like to kind of open up that tracking document and begin to kind of work through. It's pretty long. Councilmember Pompey.
Sure, just give me a minute. I printed it out because I made notes and I couldn't make notes on the
Do you just the spreadsheet? Do you want me to share it?
Are you talking about the spreadsheet? Which spreadsheet are you talking about? Which one?
The one labeled Greenbelt Weekly Bill Tracking Week 3.
Week 4. Please point up week 4.
Is that the Excel sheet?
Yeah, the Excel sheet
Okay.
that
Excel
Mr.
sheet.
Summerone said. Is there one for week?
Actually, it's included.
That one, but
So there's a spreadsheet, and we're running. Now that we're in the session, we're going to kind of get this link in a spreadsheet. There is one that's out there. We can put the PDF up there if you like.
Yeah. Didn't Daryl send a
Daryl
more
did send
narrowed down version, or did that not happen? Was that just my imagination?
No, he sent it's a relatively long. It's narrowed down, but with
there's three. There is a second shorter one that was sent by Mr. Carrington, and that is the PG
Those are the
delegation.
delegation bills.
delegation
Got it.
bills, those are
Okay.
different. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
But if we can put that up on the screen, and I was thinking, maybe somehow we can just kind of look through and figure out the ones, Mr. Carrington has recommendations in there, but there's some that council may want to either take a stance or not. That is not what Mr. Carrington has already spelled out, and maybe that's a good way of kind of working through these.
Right, Mr. Carrington. I mean, in the meeting on Friday, is he on this call?
No, it's not.
I tried to make clear to him that we need him to give us a more consolidated list. So hopefully that's what we're going to start getting, as opposed to just a list of everything. I feel like that's what we've asked for, been consistently asking for. So I did, he makes recommendations on many of these, but like the truth is we're not going to take a stand on the majority of these. So I just have a few. I have a handful that I've marked that I think are either ones that are important for us to watch or possibly request amendments on. And then, of course, if council's gone through them, I'm interested to hear what you have to say as well. So I'm happy to just go through and start talking about the ones that I marked, if folks are ready to do that.
Yeah, why don't we kind of work through, because there's some that I made notes on, and we just kind of work through the ones where there's a change in the recommendation. Councilmember McKinney.
Just to try to further filter this a little bit, there are ones where the status is already passed, right? So does that mean that we're past a date where we could submit some type of written testimony or anything like that, or that it's further along? So because it's kind of difficult to understand if that is the case, then we may want to move to the ones where we are further, where we have a chance to do that. I'm just trying to, because like we were saying, there are a lot of bills on here. And so are we trying to identify ones we can make testimony, ones we can either do that in person, submit written testimony, or get more information on? Like, what are the key discussion points that we're trying to establish versus just kind of going through the list, because that could take a very long time. And we wouldn't, I want to make sure we have an action plan coming out of this. So, and that everybody's aligned around that.
I think at this point in the process, these hearings that we're seeing are like subcommittee hearings.
Right.
So we're at the very beginning of session. That's another reason, Councilmember Poppy, why you said we don't need to take positions on a lot of these at the subcommittees, because they're not going to make it out of committee.
And they could change substantially as
They
well.
will change.
I mean, they will change for sure. So most of the things that these are just things to sort of keep an eye on, or things that we may want to comment on. And maybe we want to comment on them early. Maybe we want to wait until they make it out of their committees. So that's sort of what I've noted here.
Okay. So they're kind of numbered, and it looks like we're kind of working. So maybe we can just kind of go through, and I don't have that many.
I'm not going to go through every bill. I'm just going to mention the ones that I have marked, if that works, because I don't think we need to go through every bill. But again, if you guys have also marked things that I missed, we should bring those up. So the first one I marked was HB032, which is local law enforcement vehicle requirements for AEDs. And I marked that because, we do have AEDs in some of our cars. And this is, in general, I think a good idea, but it's also an expensive idea. So I just feel like this is one of the ones that we want to keep an eye on because we may want to offer amendments such as um, instead of it being every single car needs an AED, like a certain percentage of cars for shift need an AED. Like that's the kind of amendment we may want to offer to this to make sure that we're not all of a sudden. I mean, how much do they cost each? Like $300 each, or
Oh, I wish it was $300 or $2,500
yeah.
each, and then
So I think we currently have one in. We have a car with one in every shift. Is that right?
correct. At least we maintain at least one vehicle during a shift with an AED.
Yeah. So that's something we may want to offer an amendment on. And just keep an eye on that because again, that's a large expense for municipalities.
So that's listed on here as support, seek state aid. So you want to make that a monitor.
Yeah, I think support and monitor and possibly seek amendment on that. I marked HB035, which is crisis and clarifies local government the power to regulate the invasive tree of heaven to support educational and land management, just as something that we would support. If we want to give testimony on that, or if we want to do a letter on that, I think we can. We're very proactive at managing invasive species here. We have a very active program, so having being able to do that on our own, having local regulatory authority for that would be helpful to us. And then HB0071, Medical Assistance Program, Psychiatric Rehabilitation Program Services, Reimbursement for Youth Psychiatric Rehabilitation, adjust Medicaid reimbursements for youth psychiatric program to establish parity and improve provider sustainability. This doesn't have a direct impact, but this is something that goes towards one of our legislative priorities, which is, youth mental health, youth services. So I think something to monitor and possibly write a letter of support if they need support because, that is one of our priorities is trying to find ways to reduce youth recidivism. The Climate Solutions Affordability Act, HB0079, which is comprehensive climate and affordability package intended to reduce emissions while addressing household cost impacts through programs and incentives. And again, this could provide us some funding for doing energy upgrades and other building efficiencies and things like that. So I think that's something that we want to monitor as long as they would allow local municipalities to apply for these grant programs, because that would be really great for us. That would be a boon. So I think Mr. Carrington notes support with amendment to prioritize municipal grant access, which I think is right on. This one was corporations and association, cooperative living, house equity corporations establishes this is HB0085, establishes policies or programs related to corporations and associations with implementation details set by statutes or agency guidelines. I just want to hear a little bit more about that and how that could possibly impact the city. So I sort of just have a question to reach out to Daryl and make sure that because that could have some impact here.
So you want to monitor that?
Yeah, I just don't know enough about that. I really couldn't tell based on that. HB0092, beverage containers connected with plastic rings, restriction on sale. This just seems like something right in our wheelhouse. And it would restricts the sale of beverage containers connected by those plastic rings, which we all, of course, cut, right, when we get something with those rings. And I think that that's a great bill for us to support because, again, that's something that we have a lot of passion about here in Greenbelt. HB0099 is this. We already talked about that a little bit. That's has to do with land use and density, and that's one, again, to monitor for us. And then I have marked as a star to monitor as well HB 014, unhoused individuals' rights and affirmative defense, establishes rights and affirmative defense for unhoused individuals likely related to enforcement of certain public space offenses. So just something for us to keep an eye on to see how that would impact our own rules around and policies around how we deal with unhoused people. So just monitoring that. I'm not sure. That's 009, House Bill 009. Not sure how that's going to shake out, but I'd like to keep an eye on it.
House Bill 0104.
I'm sorry. Yes, 0104. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm looking at this it's little tiny writing.
Ms. Pompey, if I may, on HB 0099, staff is supportive of this bill on the basis this is the annexation and allowing for land use authority. We support, administration supports this because I think we should support any municipality that's looking to acquire land use authority, as we want to have our own land use authority. So we think this bill is good, and we want to support this bill.
I think that's great. The next one I have marked is HB 0153, residential rental apartments air conditioning requirements. So this would just require rental apartments basically to provide air conditioning. I mean, which I think is something that we deal with here in the city. It's something that's clearly important, and the reason I flagged it is because we have had issues with that in this city. So I think something to just monitor that and possibly weigh in on that one. Yeah. And then HB 0155, which is the face coverings bill, which I think has already had a floor vote. I don't know. That's moving very quickly. So I think we're just going to keep monitoring that. We didn't even have time to testify before that had an emergency, or to submit testimony before that had an emergency floor vote. But I think that ended up failing because there were some amendments on that were not supported.
Was that the same one that was SB 1? Well, I thought that was the face coverings one. Okay, so
It's
the same one. Okay.
it's a cross-file bill, but it did not pass the House because there were some amendments added that the co-sponsors didn't support. So
It's Delegate William and Senator Augustine's bill.
I have starred here House Bill 0167, gas-powered leaf blowers, purchase, use, and prohibitions. This is something that we've talked about here on the local level, and I think my main concern here is we would need some kind of funding or state support to either do some kind of buyback program or offer vouchers to people so that they could buy new leaf blower equipment, because this could be a large expense on residents or on the city, because in places where we've seen these prohibitions work well are places where cities have offered, vouchers so people could purchase new equipment. So we don't want to get ourselves in a situation where now we, have to enact this prohibition and have no way to sort of encourage people to follow that law. So I think just monitoring that and seeing how far I don't know how far that's going to go, though. Then let's see. Housing and community development, affordable housing, educated workforce housing, and municipal corporations. This is just something to watch, I think, to see how far that goes, what the guidelines are going to be on that. And then I also marked HB 0172, which is body-worn cameras. We already have body-worn cameras on our local officers. This has to do with body-worn cameras for municipal enforcement officers, but we should watch this because it's going to be setting policies. So we want to make sure that there's nothing there that's going to conflict with what we already have in place here in the city. The HB 197 Comprehensive Community Safety Funding Act creates comprehensive community safety funding framework to support local violence prevention through safety initiatives through dedicated funds or grants. And again, this is one of our priorities here is public safety, particularly as it concerns youth. So I think this is a great bill for us to support, and we would really want to advocate for local access to those funds, like municipal access and not just county access. So possibly offering an amendment on that for county access. And again, with the HB 224 reentry and reintegration support program, similarly, this is to support, residents who are returning from um, jail or prison and to help them reintegrate into the community. So if there would be local benefits to that, if we could get local funding to help with that, I think that would be something we might be interested in. The House Bill 0239 is the Starter and Silver Homes Act. So we don't have any, some municipalities who have zoning are very concerned about this. We don't have zoning, but it's something we should definitely monitor because it sort of impacts minimum lot sizes and qualifying houses, setback standards, things like that. So even though we don't have zoning, that could have some implications here in our city.
And we received that letter from the mayor of Sykesville, reaching out to all the other mayors. But you're correct, we don't have land use or zoning authority, so we don't really have control over that.
So I'm getting to the end. I swear, I know this is a lot, but these are just a lot of these are for monitoring. HB 331, which is the Maryland Beverage Container Refund and Litter Reduction Program, which is the bottle bill. So, which we've supported in the past, and I assume we're going to want to continue to support that.
I think we already voted. I put that forward as a motion on last Wednesday to support that one, actually.
Yeah.
Because I knew those hearings were coming up.
Yes, those hearings are next week. And then HB 345 is Public Utilities, Solar Energy Generating Systems, and Renewable Energy Credits. I think that's something to really just for us to monitor because we do have some solar here in the city and just to see how that may end up impacting us. Let's see, I already got body worn cameras. The voting right, the HB 350 is the Voting Rights Act of 2026. I haven't had and this is specifically for counties and municipalities. So we're going to want to watch that because that will obviously directly impact our elections and the way they work. So I think we need some more info on that to see how we're going to be affected and whether or not we're going to support it. HB 351 is digital unmasking federal agents, and it basically modifies policies or programs related to public safety with implementation details set by any statute or agency. And it basically has to deal with, I don't know, it's kind of, it could have some impact on us. It might not, but it's like one to monitor for sure if it's going to have any impacts on the way we report. There's another one that has to do with elections, 357, municipal election dates and reporting requirements. We're just going to want to keep an eye on that because it has to do with, again, municipal elections and how we report and how our votes work. So that's something we have to watch closely to see if we have any implement that.
That's an administrative bill that was actually put forward by the state.
Yeah.
So, and because of a change in their reporting requirements, they actually need us to shift our dates around. So we should monitor that closely.
Yeah. HB 368 is a supplementary homeowners property tax credit. That's a delegation bill. And this could provide some tax relief to residents. So something for us to monitor and keep an eye on. And then the only other one I saw that I flagged was Condominium and Homeowners Association electric vehicle recharging or equipment. And that's HB 405. And there's no more real information on that, but I just flagged that because we do have plenty of condominiums and homeowners associations here, and we're just going to want to monitor that, see how that's going to impact them should that pass. So those are the ones that I had flagged.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else have any? Yes, council member, please.
And forgive me because you did a lot there. So I wasn't, and so I'm not sure if you called one out. Did you call out HB 0235, which was the neighborhood business development program in local? So that one might have some impact, especially since we have a lot of small businesses and we're trying to increase assistance for businesses in our community. So that one we might want to continue to monitor. And then HB 0240, which was guidance materials and notification to the Department of Planning. I feel like Miss Ruby had mentioned something about getting guidance on information. So this is more of an administrative thing. And I feel like she called that out one time in a meeting. It's 0240, local comprehensive plans, guidance materials, and notification to the Department of Planning. Because there was something about, it was either she or Miss Fear were saying that they were waiting to get information back in order to be able to present to us. And so this requires guidance materials and the notification to the Department of Planning for local comprehensive plan activities and strengthening state visibility and coordination. So that just may be of help as we are trying to have better communication and coordination between the data and the information that we share between the state planning agencies and then here in our municipality. Okay. Those were my two that you did not call out.
Sorry, I have one more that's not on this list because it just dropped today. I apologize. House Bill 709, which is the Good Cause Eviction Bill, which is one of our priorities that Delegate Wilkins is the lead sponsor on that. And she just dropped that today, so I don't have any.
Can you say the number again?
HB 709. So I don't know anything about, I'm sure hearings and everything haven't been scheduled yet, but that's something that we'll want to put on our bill, on our watch list for Daryl, so we can keep an eye on how that goes. Sorry, I forgot. I made a note, but then I forgot to say it out loud.
Okay. I've got a few. So kind of going back up to the top of the list, there's one HB 0010, and that's a change to the requirements for legal advertisements, allowing digital instead of brick and mortar newspapers. And I think, because we're fortunate because we've got the Greenbelt News Review. It means so much to us, and I think we all want to support local journalism. So Daryl has that listed 10. He has that listed as
10. House Bill 0010.
So he's got that listed as support with amendment, and I think we should take no position, just in deference to the Greenbelt News Review and all the great things that local newspapers do, and how important advertising is to, in our case, even though it'd be more convenient. Greenbelt thing, I wouldn't want to take a position on that.
Although that's an interesting question, because I think the News Review qualifies as a digital publication as well these days.
It's true.
So I'm not sure. I think that, yeah.
Why not? It depends on how you feel about brick and mortar newspapers. So
I don't know that I'm okay with not taking a position on that necessarily, but I'm not sure the argument of because we have the News Review, we shouldn't. I'm not sure I agree with that argument. But
well, thank you. There's a few more that I ticked off. I think you mentioned House Bill 0085, the Cooperative Limited Equity Housing Corporations. You got that. The pesticides ones, Delegate Healy put that in, 0091. Possibly supporting that with amendment. I'm curious about HB 0107, the speed monitoring assistant pilot. I just want to kind of keep track of that. Listed as no position. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, since you bring up speed and bills, DC will speak to whoever listens, whoever's willing to listen about cross-border collaboration and agreements to enforce DC's violations onto Maryland and Virginia drivers. So there's several of those bills before state legislature.
Yeah, and I have I'm supportive of the concept, but I think there needs to be more equity in the fine structures. DC's fine structures so out of step with Maryland and Virginia drivers. I think somehow so that would be a support with amendment thing for me, because until that equity or parity is in place, it could really be very difficult for some of our residents. Uh, just they just need to work out the fines.
So
Once-
DC needs to lower their fees, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Well, perhaps we need to adjust ours a little bit.
Think they'll ever do that.
I don't think they'll do that either.
They're in such a
That's-
unique position
Yeah, they are.
because, places like us, our municipality, Greenbelt, when we have these speed cameras in, we put them in with the goal that,
Safety.
of safety, right? Like, so initially we're going to get a lot of money from fines, but that's going to go down because people are going to speed less. But I think in DC, because there are so many more people who are just sort of in and out of the city, they don't necessarily see the ticking down. So it's really like a revenue stream for them in a way that it's not for somewhere like Greenbelt or other municipalities,
It's true.
Like they make money. They make lots of money from their cameras.
Specifically, that's that HB 0249.
Anyway.
That's that bill. So we should monitor it.
Excuse me.
Also, I'm curious about HB 0256, that speed monitoring. I think it's zones or corridors. Yeah, because that's something that, if passed, that's setting up some sort of a safety corridor, is something that we might benefit from on Greenbelt Road around Kenilworth Avenue between there and Lake Crest. So that's HB 0260. Excuse me, that's HB 0256.
There's another piece to this. There are areas where it would benefit the community to have speed monitoring. There's plenty of space along Kenilworth or other roads that have wide stretches that it's not near a school and not near a residential area, but speed leads to accidents, that these speed corridors could help in reducing speed.
Kenilworth Avenue north-south. Yeah. HB 0341. That's one of Delegate Williams' bills, so I think we should monitor it and consider supporting it, just to be supportive of Delegate Williams. Another one, HB 0353. And that has to do with termination of gas and electricity in multifamily units. We need to just monitor that. We had the situation in one of our apartment developments not too long ago. Should monitor that one. HB 0369. I believe that may be Delegate Martinez's bill. It's a property tax credit for new businesses. We should consider supporting that, monitoring, supporting it. Just a couple more. HB 0394. That has to do with counties, sidewalks, crosswalks, and safe routes to school. Construction of sidewalks, safe routes. We've been having so many issues with between us and State Highway Administration about the maintenance of sidewalks after they've been put in place, particularly around the schools. I'd just like to learn a little bit more about this bill, so I want to monitor it. Likewise, HB 0402 has to do with common ownership communities. Setting up a database and having an ombudsman to deal with questions around governance documents. It's submitted by Delegate Holmes. We want to monitor that. And there's a series of Prince George's County bills, and I sent an email around about this. I got an email this afternoon, late this afternoon. So there's several of these Prince George's County bills that have to do with the sale of alcohol, wine, beer, and liquor. One of them has to do with special events. Another has to do with festivals. A third has to do with sales in grocery stores. Well, one of them is House Bill 0415, but they're coming up as county. There's a subcommittee hearing meetings on them coming up on Wednesday. So we just need to monitor those closely because they could impact some of our local restaurants or grocery stores. So on the sheet, they're listed as House bills, but they're also county bills. Would you like the numbers?
They're delegation bills. Is that what you?
Coming up, there's a hearing on Wednesday on 2 or 3 of them. That's pretty much it. I'm looking at House Bill 0434, residential leases and algorithmic rent determinations. Monitor that. And Senator Washington had a couple of bills, and maybe you already mentioned them. SB 0349 has to do with vehicle laws. Just because it's Senator Washington, I think we should monitor it. And also SB 0351. I'm not sure what this is about, but I want to monitor as well. It's private passenger vehicle insurance usage monitoring. And just since it's Senator Washington, so I'd like to kind of track that. Anybody else have any other bills? Yes, please, go ahead.
My apologies if someone mentioned this before. House Bill 0254, which is supporting Inclusive Community Adaptation Act, which is interesting in title, but if you look at what it potentially is talking about is inclusive community adaptation, but it's also looking at potential grants and technical assistance for things like flooding, stormwater management, heat mitigation, and resilience planning. And so I think, especially for our community where we're dealing with a lot of stormwater management here in Center City as well as in Greenbelt East, that would be something that we should take a look at, as well as a lot of our properties are dealing with heat issues. So anything that could potentially create grants and additional funding would be helpful.
So we've tagged a number of bills to either monitor. So as far as getting them on the agenda for Monday, between now and Monday, hopefully our contractor, Mr. Carrington, can kind of give us a little bit more information on these and also on the timing to see when hearings are coming up, how quickly something is going to move. And Mr. Carrington and these contractors have a really good sense of what the mood is of,
Right.
of the House and the Senate, so they can really give us some perspective of whether or not, I think what Daryl says, do these bills have legs?
Right.
And are they going to move?
Right.
So I was trying to take a look at our delegation also to see what bills they had in. I think we already mentioned PG 407, which is the property tax credit for new businesses, and that's Delegate Martinez. It's a local bill. He's got a couple more: vacant and abandoned property tax rate. We don't have too many vacant or abandoned properties, thankfully, in Greenbelt. In fact, I don't think we have any. There's a teen pregnancy support bill, PG 504-26. We already got Delegate Healy's bill, the pesticides.
Yeah. Senator Washington's got a few. He's got the public schools open enrollment. I don't know what that's about. I can't tell. There's no description, and I don't know what that means, just based on. So maybe we could get more of a description on that. And then the vehicle laws eluding police penalties, SB 349, is another one of Senator Washington's bills that may be of interest to us, actually.
So let's monitor that.
Yeah,
which
that's
means
SB 349 is the vehicle laws, and SB 350 is public schools. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I didn't want to.
Would it be good for us to track all the delegates?
Yeah,
bills?
all of our delegate bills should be on the list just in case, because they may ask us to offer letters of support even if we normally maybe wouldn't do it. But if it's something that we do support and they need a letter, we would probably offer it, I would think.
To some extent, the same is true with neighboring jurisdictions, District 21, which is Laurel and College Park. So a lot on the table at this point. A lot of these bills won't move.
Won't move at all.
Right. So it's good that we have some support from our contractors, and it's good that we're looking at these things now. And as they become time sensitive, we can respond appropriately with a letter, testimony, or actually talking to the delegates and talking to the committee chairs and folks on the committee, because that's the way you get things done. Go ahead.
And just and we're still early in the session, so there will be more bills. We're counting on our representatives to sort of keep us in the loop on what's important, like what we need to track. We were saying in our meeting on Friday with Mr. Carrington and Mr. Tarlow that there's sort of like two lanes of bills that we are looking at here in Greenbelt. There are bills that we support, politically and that have impact here in our city, such as like the immigration enforcement bills. But then there are also bills that have sort of like direct financial impact on our city. So those are sort of the two lanes that we're looking at. So our consultants are aware of that, and we're counting on them to bring things to our attention, because I know the mayor and I both do keep an eye on these things, but we also have full-time jobs and are here on the council, so we don't catch everything. So
it's definitely true.
We're really counting on them for that. So hopefully, I know
Jay
Tim
Davis
was taking notes, so he's hopefully going to have the list ready for Daryl, so Daryl will know which ones we need to look at, and he'll add to that, I imagine.
Yeah, and I think it'll really help having a sort of a digital copy. It's a little bit easier to kind of work with and put another column in and check off the ones that you are interested in.
And sort of cross through the ones that don't make it.
Right. I also appreciate, former mayor and council member for life, Jay Davis, has been, as a former president of the Maryland Municipal League, she's been monitoring the legislative committee meetings for Maryland Municipal League, which is really helpful. And she sent a memo with a few bills ticked off. I'm going to contact MML, the legislative committee, and try and get the fuller list that they're working with, so that we're not duplicating our efforts. If MML is already pushing really, really hard for certain bills, we don't really need to do as much. Is Jay Davis online?
She is, and she has her hand raised.
Oh my, what a surprise. Jay Davis, are you there?
Someone's going to have to give, I'm not a co-host, so I can't give her permission to talk.
Let's see. Jay Davis, are you there? There you go. Jay Davis, are you there?
Can't hear you, Jay.
Hold on a second, Jay.
Try now. Jay, if you can hear us.
Careful with some feedback. We can read what you're saying though.
Go down.
Okay. I'm glad that you mentioned the memo, and I'll probably have another one for you on Thursday and Friday, because they're having meetings every Wednesday morning. And I try to include the ones I think that are specifically for Greenbelt. I would hope that you would look at the positions that MML is taking, because very often that's also MACO's position. And if they're strongly opposed to something, that might be an indication that there's more to it than what you think politically or emotionally that you should support, especially the housing bills that the governor is putting forward. There are some other bills also that have a financial impact on municipalities as well as possible litigation risk. So I try to include that in the explanations. So it doesn't mean that you can't support something, but you may want to make sure, just like you said, does it have legs? Is there going to be a great opposition to the bill? And you'll be sort of like a lone voice crying in the wilderness.
Thank you. So true. So true. Thank you for taking the time to listen in on those meetings. I served on the committee last year, so it's important to know exactly what they are doing. Also, just in terms of our actions, we don't want to, if we can avoid butting heads with positions that MML is taking, we want to do our best to try and do that. Everybody got an email, I think, today just from MML talking about Legislative Advocacy Day on March the 5th. And that always falls during the mayor's conference. And previously it was just the mayors, but 2 years ago we've kind of opened it up. So it's an opportunity to head out to Annapolis. And Jenny Pompey, you're in Annapolis working every day pretty much anyhow. So please feel free to sign up for that. We've got a comment. Anybody else online? Hey, Mr. Orleans.
Thank you. While I regret that this council ever expanded from 5 to 7, 7 is still a relatively small number of members of council. Recently, in your retreat and discussion of potentially new standing rules, some of you indicated that you would favor into breaking into subcommittees of this council. I would suggest that there's no need for subcommittees of a council of 7. It's been said twice tonight, although it was said more clearly the second time, that 1 or 2 of you or more met Friday with Mr. Carrington and Mr. Tarlow. These meetings, I'll repeat, should not be occurring outside the council chamber. These meetings should be occurring so that residents can hear the colloquy between yourselves and whomever our contractors, legislative contractors would be. You've not changed your standing rules. There are no subcommittees. The mayor and 1 member of council should not be meeting to discuss this. If you've got individual or collective opinions on state legislation or county legislation, it should be discussed publicly and not privately and then presented to the public after you've discussed it privately.
Well, thank you so much. Let me just say that those are organizational meetings. Those aren't decision making. It's just pulling the information together and following up to make sure that the contractors, along with the city manager, to make sure that the contractors are following through with what they said. They're not deliberative. They're organizational in character. Yes, Mr. Sumner.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would add a little more to the administrative aspect of the work as we discuss the multi-provider approach, that it would put the burden on me to coordinate with 2 contractors. And I thought, oh, what better way to manage this than to bring both contractors into one meeting, 30 minutes, and we're all talking about what we need to do for the next week or next couple of weeks related to the work. Otherwise, I would have to have individual check-ins with each contractor and would speak with the different council members and be the bridge point between those. It avoids a lot of administrative work and reduces my time burden to coordinate this work in 1 30-minute meetings, which, just from, if I have to send an email to each contractor, an email to the council, that's, maybe 4 emails, 6 emails, and I can get a lot more work done in 30 minutes by having us all in the same virtual space. on talking about the same things.
And from an administrative standpoint, just following up on legislative activity and testifying and writing letters, that's something that's council driven and not staff driven traditionally. Yeah, council member.
I just wanted to add, with regards to that meeting, we did meet with Mr. Tarlow, who is focusing on county legislation for us, and the county council just went back into session today, so there's just letting folks know there's not really any updates there, which is why we're not talking about that today. But he, of course, did suggest that we try and meet with our new county council representative as soon as possible, invite him here to a meeting, and just so we could get to know him better, which we had already discussed and planned to do. So I don't think that he had any other. I mean, he gave us this thing about the data centers, but there was nothing else for him. Just so council knows what's going on.
Okay. Appreciate all of the work, Councilmember Pompey, and appreciate hearing from council members about the individual bills. Please, as we get more information, if you're curious about a bill number, you saw the number, you saw the description, is very concise and doesn't really tell you a whole lot. You can go to the state assembly, the MGA site, and look at the full text of the bill. You can read and find out more. But that's one of the reasons why we're using the contractors, so that we don't have to individually do that research. Instead, the research is here for all of us to use and the public. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, so by my count, I'm not sure I got everything written down, but I counted about a dozen that we had a suggestion to support or support with amendments, and a number of others that we talked about monitoring. I mean, I guess for my impression, I don't know that the monitoring requires any sort of vote, but I think I would like to propose, and we can compare notes about which ones Mr. Summeron wrote down and which ones I got written down, and do that as a vote on Monday. I want to keep this process clean so that we can be on the record as supporting with amendments, so that in between our council meetings, if a hearing gets scheduled, we already have it on the record that council is supporting with amendments or not supporting. So I was trying to write down which ones as well. I know Ms. Pompey had her list, but that's what I'd like to.
George was writing it down
And
as well. So
yeah, so if we can try to get that list of, like I said, I counted about a dozen besides the bottle bill that we already voted on. And hopefully that can be maybe even just a quick single vote saying, hey, here's our positions, this is support or not, or if any council member wants to pull out any of those for changes. But that means, I think part of the goal of having this work session, to my mind, was also so that then it can come up for a vote and we don't have to have a long discussion on Monday because we talked about it tonight. It can just be, here's what we talked about in the work session. Anybody have objections? Okay, let's vote.
Right. Of course, you do want to get that information from our contractors as they look at the list, to just get a sense of what's timely and what's not.
I don't see there's, I don't, I guess my point is I don't see a reason to wait until it's timely. If these are things that we're pretty sure we want to support, even if the hearings aren't going to be until March, if we have it on the record, yes, we support the land use and density bill, I don't see a reason to wait to vote for it if we already know that we are supportive of it in general principle.
That sounds good. Bills change, though. They do get amended. They change quite a bit.
Change our opinion.
Yeah, well, thank you. Mr. Councilmember Fritz, I thought you had your hand up there for a second. Yes, please.
I just wanted to make sure that we put the ones that we're just monitoring on that list as well.
Because I don't think we need to vote on the ones that we need to vote on the ones that we need to monitor.
I know we don't.
List, but master list, absolutely.
But I'd like to see, if we see them, because we want to maybe add one to it or something.
Right.
Because it was a really big list. So, but you covered the majority of what I had in my mind.
Yeah.
So,
no, but I think that's right, because sometimes maybe something will move off the monitoring and up. So I think, we don't necessarily need to vote on them, but we do want them all together to be tracked together.
Exactly.
I would agree with that.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Hey, is there anything else on this topic before we go to the information items? Yeah, please.
I was just going to say that of the bills, thank you to Councilmember Pompey for flagging those bills, and I just really want to underscore my support for HB 197, which is the Comprehensive Community Safety Funding Act. It creates an excise tax on, I believe, firearms, and it uses that to fund community programming for a comprehensive community safety funding framework. And I think that's the kind of thing that we want to be supporting at the state level, and definitely making sure that there are ways that we can access it as a city.
Great. That's HB 197.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Hey, let's go ahead and move to information items. We've got a couple. Mayor Pro Tem, City Manager.
Mine is quick. All I wanted to say was, in case people hadn't seen it, that County Council Chair Oriata's listening tour, the session for districts 4, 5, and 6, is on Thursday from 6 to 8 at the Glenarden Community Center. And so that would be something. I think I can't make it because there's another meeting last night, but I don't know if anybody else is going to be able to make it. And of course, for residents as well. And I did put that item on. I added it to the council calendar, but I'm hoping at least one of us can make it to that. That's the only information that I might have.
Yeah, I saw that, and I was planning on popping out, but we should all go if we can. Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just brief updates on snow and ice removal. We're excited to welcome 32-degree weather today, but there's still plenty of ice to be relocated. So we'll continue working relocating that ice as we have been for last week and into the weekend. The teams cleared the safe routes to school on Friday, and they continue working on Saturday. We did take a break on Sunday because our folks have been working at that point 12 days straight, because we had minimum come in on Saturday, and then we were on working on Sunday through the storm. So they took a break on Sunday, but we're right back at it on today, and we were able to clear Lake Crest, and tomorrow we'll be hitting Parkway and a few other areas where we have a lot of ice accumulation. I have received confirmation from Ms. McGrath that we will be moving forward with sponsoring a movie for tomorrow. So we're breaking news tonight. It's Over the Hedge with Bruce Willis. Yeah, it's a great movie. So that will be playing tomorrow. We'll continue doing snow removal and clearing the streets through the rest of the week. We're monitoring a storm that's brewing tomorrow night and Wednesday. It sounds like it's going to be small, so not much to worry about.
It's just slight flurries.
Well, you know, depends on which channel do you have on.
Yeah.
I just want to, be on record being really, really grateful to you and to all of Public Works and all the city staff for kind of getting us to the point where we are now with this storm. And, we're still dealing with it in so many ways, just helping. Our streets are mostly clear. There's still a fair number of cars that are parked that are just snowed in, iced in at this point, or snowcrete, whatever you want to call it. And it's really important if your car hasn't been moved, and if you can move it, you really need to do that so that our plows can kind of get in there and clean the streets up. And also, Mr. Summerlin, I appreciate your communication with the State Highway Administration, because there's a couple of choke points on Greenbelt Road that are really dangerous. And I was just talking to Merrick Kabir over in College Park. He called me at about 6:30 this evening, and he was asking about the relationship, the policy with State Highway Administration, and why they can't clear the sidewalks. And specifically, he was pointing out that the overpasses, like in College Park on Route 1, the overpass goes over the Beltway.
Yeah.
That's nobody's property except State Highway owns it. Now, I believe the regulation, the law in Prince George's County is after a snowfall, it's 48 hours. If you have sidewalk in front of your house or your business, it's supposed to be cleared off. Now, this was a phenomenal storm, and it's a little different this time around. But for us, the Greenbelt Road, where it passes over the Baltimore-Washington Parkway, those sidewalks are impassable. So pedestrians are out, they have to actually walk in the street. So it's a very dangerous situation. Now, right before the meeting, we were talking a little bit. I think Councilmember McKinney had said that you had heard for sure that there's schools not going to happen. There's no school tomorrow.
Correct. No school tomorrow. Hence why we're sponsoring a movie tomorrow.
Right. So that's a good thing. But somehow this thing with the State Highway Administration not taking care of overpasses over county roads, like over Kenilworth Avenue, it just seems like they should be responsible for that. When they built the overpass, they built the sidewalk. It's not like we asked them to put the sidewalk there. The sidewalk was part of the construction. So I know that they've got a ton of things to do, and they're working really, really hard. But there's some dangerous situations on these state roads.
I'm in full agreement. SHA should be taking care of these sidewalks, and yeah, unfortunately, not just like the bus stops that we cleared. I think those were Monday nights. Sorry, Wednesday that we had council meeting. We heard council's concern, and we moved on Thursday. They were cleared, and those are on state highway. But there we felt that we needed to do that. One, for the safety concerns, and two, these are employment hubs. These are centers that oftentimes they're hourly wage employees that they get called in, and if they're not at work, it's jeopardizing their work, and they're not getting paid.
Right. Right. So, for people that, have been impacted, maybe there's a snow mountain next to their house. Please be patient. We're doing everything we possibly can. Mr. Summerlin?
I have just a note that on the overpass on Cherrywood Lane, we do clear that, and that sidewalk is a priority 2 for us. So we clear that sidewalk. But yeah,
Okay.
and those present a unique challenge because we can't plow those roads because there's traffic underneath it. So we have to be very careful on how we clear that snow and ice.
Council member.
I had heard from some parents today who were concerned that there were some areas in the city where children catch the bus that had not been cleared. They're not city property, but that there were areas, I texted you about that had not been cleared. So there was basically nowhere for the children to stand. And I mean, luckily they don't have school tomorrow. There's nowhere for the kids to stand other than in the street to get the bus. So I don't know if there's a way we can check some of the other, just to make sure that those bus stops are clear, because the schools are not going to be able to reopen if we don't have clear bus stops.
Right. With the particular case you emailed me or texted me earlier, we did follow up with that property manager to let them know of the regulations. We're getting a little
It's hard, but
not quite pushback. There's a concern of physical ability and financial ability, and but in this particular case, it's a commercial property, and
yeah.
we need to watch out for the safety of folks, and we are pushing back on them that, hey, it's their responsibility.
Great. And then I had also heard that the situation in Franklin Park was not great. I haven't been over there. I'm not talking about our roads, but we have many residents there, and I've heard that the snow clearing has not been great. I can't confirm that, but I'm just wondering what you know of that.
I've been in communication with Miss Knight via email. We connected this afternoon. We need to do some cross coordination because they were trying to clear the sidewalk along Cherrywood Lane in particular, and we're pushing snow curb to curb, and on one side of the road, which is the eastern side, it needs to go onto that medium and the sidewalk. So we're I've connected her with Mr. Kim to coordinate the logistics around the ice removal for that sidewalk on the Cherrywood. And I did submit the complaints that we have received to Ms. Knight regarding the parking lots. And I believe that was on Saturday that we received those complaints, and she followed up immediately that they were working to get through all the parking lots and all their paths.
Thank you. Thanks for following up on that.
Yeah, I drove through some of the parking lots on Sunday afternoon, and they're making progress, but some of the roadways are so narrow with cars parked. It's like it's hard. It's just going to take time. But we all multifamily development property owners need to do what they need to do. The law in Prince George's County is 48 hours. Yeah, Ms. Pope.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention the sidewalk in front of the Charlestown North high rise on Prince James Way. I think the sidewalk along by the pool is responsibility from the high for the to the high rise, and I'm not sure if they know because I know management has changed. So maybe we want to make them aware of that because nothing has been done. This is like one huge block of ice, the entire sidewalk, and people, it's just impossible. So they may not know. So maybe we can just check on that if they're preparing to get this done or
We will contact Ross Management. They're not new. They've been there previously.
Well, it happened it happened before, but I'm just gonna give them the benefit of the doubt. They're dealing with so much that, but now I think it might be time to at least attempt to clear it.
Given the benefit of the doubt as well, and we'll follow up with them.
Because the opposite side, Charlestown Village, did a fabulous job. So
Well, we had to remind those folks as well on the sidewalks.
So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilmember McKinney.
I know that we're dealing with one thing first, which is the snow and the ice. But I also am thinking about when we do get actually above 32 degrees for more than an hour, what's going to happen? Is there a plan for ensuring that our drains are cleared, and what agency does that go through? Because all that snow is going to start to melt and go into these drains, and if those drains are backed up, we're going to have potentially some water management issues. So
We have a procedure for that. The storm drains, the city should have handed these over to the county a long time ago. There was agreement that they would take them over, but we didn't provide the proper easement. There's a lot of things that we didn't do on our side as a city. So they're until we transfer them to the county, they are responsibility. So the things that we do ahead of storms, particularly large storms with heavy rainfall, precipitation, we clear the drains to make sure that there's free flow through the drain, so that that's not a choke point for the water. And then when it gets into the system, we make sure that the water is able to get into the system and work its way, and that depends on where in the city is. So a lot of the concerns are around city center, and all of that goes to the lake. So as long as we maintain the culverts and the drains, clear of debris, and let that water flow, the lake and the forebays do what they're supposed to do, which is capture and slow down that release, and ultimately just gets into the system. I don't anticipate that this is going to create flooding in those areas. That's the concern. But the team will be monitoring. Obviously, we'll do what we can within all the things that we have to do, right? We still have ice to relocate. There's a lot of work that's just piled up elsewhere, and we're just trying to move everything forward, including waste collection and all the other projects.
Just in wrapping up, just one crosswalk, the crosswalk at Frankfurt and Greenbelt Road that leads directly into Roosevelt High School. There's a pretty big snow mountain on each side, and that's where a lot of students cross the street walking. There's a crosswalk there, and I think there's a crossing guard as well. But if there's anything we can do just to clear that one sidewalk corner right there, because that's a lot of high school students stop there and they cross the street right there. So I mean, but just so many things. But just make a note of that. Just one final thing, though. Tomorrow we're going to the new county council person representing District 4 is going to be sworn in at 9:30. Tim Adams, the former mayor of Bowie, will be sworn in. The ceremony, it's at 9:30 in the county administration building. I believe it's going to be broadcast as well. I'm not sure what the link is for that broadcast, but it's an exciting time. I'm going to attend. Anybody else? It's open to the public, so it's open to city managers too.
Yes, I will be there.
Okay. Well, if there's no other information items, let's go ahead and call it a night. We actually, sir, did you have a question or comment, please?
Hello, my name's Paul Howe. I'm from Colmar Manor. I know that you had the data center task force report, in your packet, but I just came here to talk about those briefly.
So council's will to okay.
Yeah. I'm in the Node Landover Data Center group, and I've been opposing the proposed Landover Data Center for the past 4 months. I'll start with just a brief anecdote about myself. So my decision to do that came from my work with the special education students that I work with. When I started as a dedicated aide 17 years ago, I learned about kind of their hierarchy of needs, and they're the same ones that we have, but particularly at the base of the pyramid is the physiological needs, such as clean air, water, shelter, and sleep. And I also learned that if the base of the pyramid has not been taken care of, then all the other subsequent higher level things, like just safety and health, love and belonging, those can't really be enacted either. But here's the thing. AI data centers create material conditions that inhibit people's ability to thrive. For instance, AI data centers run 24/7 and often rely on diesel generators for backup power, and they release significant amounts of air pollution like nitrogen oxides, carbon monoxide, and particulate matter. These pollutants can cause or intensify respiratory and heart diseases, and they're especially dangerous for children, the elderly, and people with pre-existing health conditions. They also generate significant noise pollution from their HVAC systems. Some residents in other places have invested thousands of dollars to attempt to soundproof their houses, sometimes to no avail. I'll turn to Prince George's County. People here are speaking out against the data centers. Last fall, on October 25th, hundreds of people showed up to the task force community meeting and showed unified opposition to the data centers in Prince George's County. But the task force buried the popular sentiment in the appendix of this report, which failed to meaningfully analyze the environmental and public health risks posed by data centers. I think the will of the people is clearly opposed to AI data centers. So resistance is going to be inevitable throughout our county on these matters. And I will conclude with a question and some requests. I wondered whether you would approve of this construction of a data center in Landover. And if not, I have some community letters that, if you're against it, I would ask you to sign off on. And if I could ask you to go one step further than that, then as the council, that you would adopt a resolution opposing an AI data center being constructed in Greenbelt. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. Please leave that information with us. Yeah. We've not taken a position, but we've been reading the information, both the report and media reports and whatnot. So it's interesting that task force, I noticed there was no representative from municipalities on the task force, and that sort of rubbed me the wrong way. Yeah. But please leave that information with us.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do so. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, just a slight correction. The swearing in is at 9 o'clock tomorrow, not 9:30, just in case anybody was relying on that. It's 9 o'clock, not 9:30.
Thank you for fact checking. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and call the meeting, the work session, to a close. Thank you. They changed that. It was 9:30.
What I just saw on the website said 9 o'clock.
But before, it's...
I wouldn't doubt that they changed it, though. I mean, they